Hey, welcome to Second Shift View. I'm Ethan. Joining me as always is Gary. Today we're joined by my wife, Ashley. Today we're doing the 1962 epic war film The Longest Day, directed by Ken Anakin, Andrew Morton, Bernard Wicke, Bernhard, and Gerald Oswald, and Daryl F. Zanuck.
Pretty hard to pronounce names.
Well, half of them are German and French.
No.
Yeah. So let's start with our initial thoughts about this movie.
I thought that it was good, but it was freaking long. It was really freaking long. When I saw it off the bat, I was like, oh gosh, this is just really it's like a 3-hour movie. But besides that, it does have a lot of action in it, and it is really good. I mean, and it was, some of the deals on it were pretty interesting, some of the stuff that was going on. So I liked it. It was kind of weird. Like when you're watching an old movie like that, though, you kind of have to take into account that it is an old movie, you know.
Yeah.
Probably for its time, it was probably really good.
Yeah.
I would have gave it now watching it, I still like it. I gave it pretty good, but probably for the time, it was really awesome.
There's been better movies come out since then. I feel like, not that capture the entire scope of this film, but they cover certain aspects a little bit better. But I feel like the beginning is slow. Like if you cut the beginning, it's 45 minutes before anything really happens.
I know, yeah, and before it took a while.
Well, in rebuttal, actually, the movie is not just about a war scene. It shows the soldiers right before the battle and the connections they formed with their other comrades. So there's a sense of character development that needed, and that's basically a large part of the movie.
I feel it goes on too long though.
But to get the epic scope of it, if you look...
Yeah, I get that they drew it out longer to get this.
John Wayne was pretty cool in it.
Yeah, he was good.
And actually talking about actors, they were from 5 different countries, and they all spoke... The Germans spoke German, French spoke French, and the Americans spoke, English.
They should have had Middle Easterns and done Durka Durka.
For sure, that was way before this.
Yeah.
That would have been great, though. It would have fitted with the movie just right. It would have carried on the natural tone.
God.
Also, on a note, the producer wanted to blow it, not just line the account of the Allied invasion of D-Day, but also as an anti-Hollywood war movie that would show what war was really like, brutal. And if you also look on the parachuters and how they just got murdered, you know, they jumped down and then suddenly gunshot.
Whenever the parachuters go down and that one dude's trapped there and he's hopeless and you can tell what he's thinking. You can tell when he's thinking cut, and then his knife falls, and you can tell you can kind of he displays his emotion pretty well without saying anything, and he's just trapped up there, and it kind of, the first person view of it kind of makes you relate with it. That part was cool, and what's some other the part with the dummies, that was really interesting.
Yeah, the Ruperts.
Yeah.
I like how they conveyed the Germans, not necessarily a derogatory or they're the bad guy kind of way, that they were just soldiers too, but that they had this overconfidence about them, that they're no way they're going to do this. We're just going to, even if they did, we're just going to mow them over. Well, I'm not worried about where they're going to land.
Yeah.
I know exactly where they're going to land because I'm smarter than them.
The whole thing about Hitler and the sleeping pill, too.
Yeah.
And that was accounted for because he took a sleeping pill. So it would have been a different story if he didn't take a sleeping pill.
And they couldn't send in reinforcements because they couldn't ask Hitler for to deploy them.
It was crazy how they were over there just eating their food, and there's bombs and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, And the bagpipe guy. I know that's a
Yeah.
normal thing. Like
Yeah.
I know they have drummer boys and stuff in the
Yeah.
Civil War and all that, but that's crazy.
That was Scotland, yeah.
There was a guy worse. There was a Scottish guy who had a sword and a longbow
Really?
on the beach, and he stormed the beach with a sword, with a broadsword, just like tradition.
It has to do with the Scottish tradition and
Yeah.
the Outlander, Highlander.
Yeah, their mentality. And
Okay,
everything.
I really like Highlander, but
Not the movie Highlander.
that would be like over the top. That's a lot to ask. Yeah.
There's a picture of him getting off the boat with the sword. You can probably find it. It's pretty awesome. I liked all the random cameos from people from the day,
Henry
like
Fonda,
Henry Fonda, yeah,
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery. Did you see him?
Sean Connery.
Yeah,
I didn't catch him.
he was right when they were landing on the
The
beach.
second.
Really?
Yeah, he was with the British. He was like, "Oh, let's go! You guys are slowing me down. Let's go!" Which is also funny. He asked that all of his scenes be filmed quickly because he immediately left there to go film the first James Bond, Dr. No. So it was filmed like the same time.
You know, another thing is some of the knife scenes. I started thinking about that. I was like, well, would they or would they not? But maybe they would have, because at the time he was coming up on the dude in the railroad, you know,
Yeah.
and he had to kind of be quiet a little bit. But that was pretty rough. You know, you just
Yeah.
don't really think about them actually using a knife
Yeah.
in that.
Dwight
They were used a lot.
Eisenhower
Really?
actually walked out the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
2 minutes of the film because it was inaccurate.
Yeah, there
It was a
some
little bit
inaccuracies.
inaccurate, but anything like,
And
you
he
know,
was just like, yeah.
they wanted, the reason why they did it black and white, of course it would be different if it was color, because they wanted the actors to look younger and also to get more of a documentary feel, and that's the point. It was kind of propaganda.
Even with it being filmed in black and white, it still was like the most expensive, one of the most expensive
$10
movies
million.
at the time.
Really?
Even with them cutting back on color.
Space. I don't know why I can't remember the main dude in it, but he seemed like he should still be in a western.
Oh, John Wayne.
John Wayne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll cut out the part where I couldn't remember his name. John Wayne seemed like he should still be in
A lot of people like criticized him in this movie because first the character he's playing is supposed to be like 27,
Oh yeah, he looked.
which
way
they
older
scrapped.
than
They
that.
scrapped that. He's a paratrooper, but he's like paratroopers are not older than like 30, and he's like 55 during this, and he's overweight,
Yeah.
which is like a paratrooper wouldn't. There wouldn't be a paratrooper like that, and a lot of people criticize that, and they were just like, "Well, it's John Wayne. You gotta have John Wayne in your movie."
Yeah.
So
And he,
Should have came out with 2 6-shooters.
yeah, I'm just
he also
Yeah.
Yeah.
The weather.
Vortex.
was the worst storm in 20 years.
yeah,
And so that kind of impelled and hurt the Allies
mm-hmm.
trying to go into.
It was interesting how they had the like the weather that you were
Mhm.
talking about, how it became like they displayed how big a deal that was, and then they were thinking about not doing it, and then they're like,
Yeah.
no, that would be, we can't just leave
Yeah.
these people on a boat, you know. But
Actually, Dwight Eisenhower, the scene with the president, he was trying to act, but he was too old at that
Yeah.
point.
They had
So
a
they had an
stand-in.
actor.
Yeah, they asked him if he wanted to play his part, like his actual, like play himself in the movie, and they were like, "No, we can't convincingly make you look young enough to wear," because everybody knew what you looked at the time,
yeah,
which is cool. This won 2 Oscars for best cinematography and best special effects.
Was nominated
I could
for
see
5.
it.
There are only like 2 things I have wrong with the special effects
When
in
was
this
it done?
movie. 62.
62.
Yeah. At the very beginning, they have the German high command on the beach talking about this is probably the spot that they're going to invade or whatever.
Mhm.
You can tell that they're not being filmed there. It's like a green screen because the lighting's different. You can tell. But other than that, that's the only thing I could find that like really stuck out as bad. Like all the dog fights and all the explosions and the gunfire and everything look really good.
I noticed, like, I did notice some of the green screen stuff,
Mhm.
but I mean, for its
Yeah,
age and
yeah.
everything, pretty good.
Yeah.
And on a side note, a history fact is that only 6% of the paratroopers achieved their goal. 60% of the men and the machinery were lost and or were killed.
Yeah.
And also, it was actually one of the most expensive black and white films. And Schindler's
List. Yeah.
Schindler's List. Oh,
The most expensive black and white movie.
And one interesting I thought was, this is my favorite phrase in the entire movie, is when John Wayne is talking to the U.S. commander of the U.S. Airborne. He's like, sometimes I wonder what side God is on.
They said that more than once, didn't
Yeah.
they, too?
Yeah.
Because that was a big question. Where is God when there's all this mass murder is happening? And what side is he being called down upon?
It was crazy how, like, but I do think that it might be realistic, but it's just how, like, whenever those guys are they're getting the explosives off the bridge, and, you know, they're calling through. Well, some of them get shot, and then the rest of them are just, like, chugging on, you know? Like, okay, well, he's gone. Let's just keep going.
Well, I mean, what else are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
Stop and freeze and get shot, or
I guess so, but it
try
was
and
just...
try and take off more bombs and maybe save the bridge, save more lives.
Yeah, it was
I
just
mean,
crazy because they were just
yeah.
dropping like flies, you know.
Yeah.
And they also mentioned the longest day
Yeah.
many different times, meaning
on different sides.
Yeah. That it pulled it together with the invasion because it was, well, the longest day. And they actually, the movie coincides with how actually the battle actually began with the paratroopers.
Yeah.
And then
it lays out how it happened in real life.
And but also the Underground Railroad.
Yeah,
as well.
Freedom Fighters.
The Freedom Fighters and that helping blowing up the train and all that.
They really did get lost pretty bad up there.
Yeah,
Getting like 5 miles off.
Yeah, and then the road sign was pointing in wrong directions and stuff.
And John Wayne's character was afraid of that because that was basically, they were basically a fish in a petri dish or something. They were gonna, and it was suicidal, and they knew that.
Yeah.
Not the actual people that did it, but the actual commanders knew. And John Wayne's character, if you really look at it, did not like that idea. But what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
And it was either Normandy was going to either happen one way or another. So they had to. The president had to decide to do it now, or there's no more waiting.
And then
he mentioned that it was a gamble.
Mm-hmm.
The Germans mentioned it was a gamble if they go now, which
it was kind of crazy whenever Teddy Roosevelt's son, Teddy Roosevelt Jr. was wanting to get. Like, he was wanting to be was it the first one on the beach?
Yeah,
didn't
he get a promotion? That's what they were saying?
He had arthritis.
And that meant that he was going to be the...
And then they asked him about the arthritis, and he's like, oh, I haven't had any symptoms or any signs in, like, months. And then he goes and takes his cane out.
Yeah, and he has a cane the whole time he's working on the beach. I thought that was funny. He was played by Harry Fonda.
Harry Fonda.
Yeah.
Which is also checking out in other movies as well.
It's hard to kind of pick and choose a lot of the cameos in this movie since it's so old, but there was a lot at the time. Like, a lot of people are just here
the
and there.
Main actors from 5 different countries.
Yeah. They have, like, big names in Germany and France and stuff that played key roles and stuff in the movie.
And also they actually had actual troops and used actual ships and planes.
Cool.
They actually uncovered a German plane while filming. A tank.
They were on the beach and they were moving things around to get it ready for them to run across, and they found a buried tank on the beach, and they dug it up and got it working and used it in the film.
Wow.
And it had been there for I think it was however long is it? Like 12 years or something?
18.
Is it 18? Yeah, 18 years.
Crazy.
See, and just to think that most of these people that played in this, besides the young men, like Harry Fonda and even the German actors, and they actually lived during the war. Some of them served. So that's another historical thing I think
there was a lot of
really interesting.
Veterans that were in the movie. Like, one of them was one of the guys that climbed the cliff. He actually was there and climbed the cliff on D-Day, and he was showing everybody. Yeah, and he did it again. Yeah.
Not to mention about the German soldiers actually historically were mostly Hitler youth and older men, not
people
regular.
manning the coast. It wasn't manned by like the regular army. It was manned by like the Hitler youth and older kind of retired soldiers because they believed that the invasion was going to happen way far away from there.
Because there was 5 different points of entry that the Allies got into.
And the Allies felt really bad about having to kill all these kids, basically, to take these beaches, and they said that was the worst part.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So to me, I don't look at this just as a movie in placement in history, but I look at it as something realistic that shows the ruthlessness of war and the cost of war. And at this time, if you look at it, Vietnam was occurring, and that was, of course, and everyone has their own opinion. So I really think that this film was made in '62 for that reason of anti-war.
Yeah.
So
anything else there? Nothing else.
You know,
I live for these movies because to me, I was 11 when I first saw Longest Day. My favorite movie of all time is Gone with the Wind. If you look at that cost $1 million. It took many years to do, based on a Margaret Mitchell book. Anyway, as you can tell, but the things I think are important was the characters. That's what you get into, and that's what you feel when you see that guy in the parachute.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know this person, and you get drawn in by that. And I think not just the actors, but the writing is so amazing.
Yeah.
And also the scenes, how the cutting of scenes is amazing because you get the emotion, but also you get the wide view as well.
They did do a good job of putting you in the story like that.
Yeah. You're like right there next to them as they're like climbing the cliff and like trying to take the enemy outposts and stuff. You feel like, oh, there's an explosion. Oh no.
And also another great is the had to do with the underground was the preacher in France giving them the message in secret code through sermons, through poems.
Yeah.
And that was a way of communicating with the Allies, where that one lady was able to meet those troops and destroy the railroad because they met through correspondence.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't show that much about FDR. Check out the
old
Nazi werewolves.
We're not doing that. FDR, I'm American Badass. He can put his little clip right here.
We'll move on.
So,
but it was really it was a really good movie.
So what would you give this movie?
A 10 out of 10. I don't even rank it. I think it's one of the best, and many critics have said it's one of the best war movies ever. So.
What about you?
I gave it 7.8 Nazi werewolves, but if somebody gave it a higher, I could see it. I just the length of it and the age of the film is mainly what I took off for that. But I will give John Wayne. If I was gonna rate just him, I would give him like a 9 point.
Yeah.
If I was just rating him.
I honestly believe he kind of drags this movie down a little bit.
Is it because of the Western thing?
Kinda.
No, that's because he wanted to break out of his way and show some other side.
No.
I can argue this all day.
Come on. He's got this bloated, he does always. He's got this bloated ego walking around.
He does, and realistically, he does.
He tries to take over this movie, and there's
he actually
all the other actors in this movie. They play their part, and they are a character in the movie. You see him, you're like, it's John Wayne playing John Wayne. in this movie.
But if you look at some of his younger films, like She Wore a Yellow Ribbon.
I'm surprised he didn't kill some German and be like, oh, he has a cowboy hat.
Yeah, he puts on his cowboy hat.
See, and everyone thinks that John Wayne, because he does westerns, but in my opinion.
Anyway.
I'm a big fan.
Because of the length and because of John Wayne, I'm going to give this a 7
Because
out of 10.
John Wayne. Wow.
7 out of 10 Ruperts. Little dummy Ruperts. So, we're going to be reviewing a whole bunch of movies nonstop. So, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Stay tuned for updates on random things. Make sure you check out all the stuff down in the description and give us a like. So, catch you next time.
Catch you next time.
Bye.